Welcome to r/LegalAdvice, where we read surprisingly interesting stories that don't end in a cliffhanger, I promise. If you are new around here, please feel free to subscribe to join our awesome community, and without any further ado, let's dive right in. I was arrested, kept in jail for 62 days and then released after the DA finally got around to my case. I did nothing wrong. Okay, so a few days ago I was released from county jail after being held for 62 days. I lost my job, did not pay rent for 2 months, almost 3 now, and my car is in the process of being put up for auction and they won't release it. I was arrested for felon in possession of a firearm. I'm not a felon and never have been or had anything expunged, and at the time of arrest I did not even have a firearm on me. And reckless endangerment, firing a weapon at the side of a building, again something I did not do. I had an initial appearance thing in the jail over video where I was given a public defender who was completely and absolutely useless. I'm not sure if this is the norm for public defenders, but he did not say anything I told him to at this appearance I had, because a simple background check shows I don't have a felony, and on the night this allegedly happened I was out of state. Plane tickets and hotel with work. He literally just said not guilty, then asked for a signature bond. Judge or magistrate guy denied it because felon with a firearm is a huge thing. So then I sat in jail for a total of 60 days before my public defender even came to see me. I tried to call him every day with the phones and the number on the paper I had, but he was never in and never came to see me. I could not afford a regular attorney who wanted around $2,500 to even start a criminal case. I don't really have family or super close friends to call for help. I was fired from work, obviously, and now late on rent, and will be evicted probably because I cannot pay without a job. And definitely not $2,100 plus utilities for rent on the 3 months I'm about to owe. When he finally came and seen me 2 days before my next appearance, and he finally listened to me, he talked to the DA, who apparently also had not looked at my case or my letter. I mailed them until then also. After that appearance I got a "Sorry, computer error, you're free to go," and I was released. What can I do for any of this? Apparently someone with the same name but a different DOB shot a building after a fight and is a felon, but I sat in jail, lost my job, cannot even get my car back. They say unless I pay some crazy fees. How am I liable for these fees if it was an error? This is in Madison, Wisconsin. And guys, unfortunately today, due to technical issues, I cannot read the responses to the posts. But that gives us the opportunity to ask you what you would advise OP to do in that situation. Update: 62 days in jail, mistaken identity. I have spoken to several attorneys and law firms throughout the state and have settled on one and signed the papers and all that stuff today. I want to thank all of you for giving me advice on what to ask and look for when speaking to them all. It really helped in narrowing it down and figuring out who was the best to go with. I cannot really give out a whole lot of information because we are just starting to gather all the pieces and put it all together. There most likely will not be any updates to this for quite some time. To answer the endless messages I received about race, I am white and early 20s. The person I was misidentified as is also white but in his 30s. I spoke to my boss and HR and will be back at work very soon, and 2 months pay advance that will be paid back with OT. Also, my landlord was really nice and is letting me pay the back rent over the next few months in installments. Well, at least the guy got some kind of justice at the end, but in general I still gotta admit this story baffles me. Have you ever witnessed a similar case? I'm curious how common or how frequently this happens in the US. I hope something like this is a very rare case. Son's mother's boyfriend made him pee in pill bottle. Need advice, please, on all I can do. My 4-year-old son told me last night that his mother's boyfriend held a pill bottle and made him urinate in it. He said he then put the lid on it and put it on the stove, put tissue in his underwear and then put the bottle in his underwear. He has a history of drug use with upcoming court cases of drug possession. Him and my son's mother were busted in the car with various drugs, they arrested him and let her go. When I asked her about the pill bottle thing, she immediately said that the kids like to make things up. There were 2 other children involved as well that had to do it. What steps can I take from here? Edit, thanks all of you for the advice. I contacted CPS and they are doing what they can on their end. I will be meeting with a lawyer this week to discuss custody of my son. By the way guys, I'm pretty curious to hear, have you ever had any run-ins with the CPS? You know, in my country, you only ever hear negative things about the CPS. I mean, obviously the CPS has a different name here, but the system is pretty much the same. You always hear from them in the news when they find some poor child that had been neglected for years and nobody noticed. Update, my son's mother's boyfriend made him pee in a pill bottle. I posted the link to the original post at the bottom of the page. I've been working on things on my end, but 4 days back CPS made my son's mother take a drug test. She failed and they came to pick up the kids and she would not let them in. The police had to kick the door in and take the kids. They then placed them with her father. Nobody had notified me or called me about any of this or my son. I had been calling once a day to check on him and not getting an answer. I eventually called her stepfather, who informed me what had happened and asked if anyone had called me, and I told him they haven't. I had no idea about any of it. When I found out yesterday, I immediately went to CPS and met with the caseworker, who told me to go home and she would be there within an hour to check my home to make sure my son could live there. I waited all night and nobody ever came or called. I'm preparing to go to CPS when I get off of work this morning. Is there anything I should be doing besides talking to CPS, who really don't seem to care at all, about how badly I want my son with me, where he is taken care of and safe? I feel like all of these events were hidden from me due to the fact that I could get my son based on these events. Should I still get a lawyer for custody, or could the state give me custody over this matter? Edit, CPS removed my son from his grandfather's and gave me full custody. Thanks for all of the advice, he is so excited to see me and be with me. What a lovely happy end to this crazy story. But just so I got this right, that guy in the story basically let the son pee in the bottle because he was about to get tested for drugs, right? Please correct me in case I got that wrong. The next one is titled, Parents hired people to kidnap me. I am 16 years and 2 months old. My parents believe I am a disaster and unruly child. But they are delusional parents. My mother has bipolar disorder and does not take her meds regularly, and I'm sure my father has undiagnosed mental health problems as well. They have been wanting to send me to a camp for troubled teenagers for a while, and 2 people came to take me without me knowing. I thought they were kidnapping me. I screamed and my brother, who was at home but was not supposed to be, took my father's gun and threatened to kill them, and that was when they told us who they are and why they are here. We called the police, but they did nothing after they talked to our parents. I do not trust my parents anymore and I want to get emancipated. Where do I start and what documents do I need to prepare? Do I have a case? I am working part-time right now. I don't think my parents will object. They will be happy to get rid of me. Edit, it seems like emancipation is unlikely. It sucks, but it is the reality and I should accept it. Please, if you have any other advice for me to maybe change my guardian or somehow reduce the influence that my parents have over me or anything that helps, I will appreciate it. You know, those stories about teenagers or children are always the toughest for me. You cannot help but feel so sorry for the people in the story and just wish for a happy ending. Update to the kidnapping story. I sadly don't have any good news. Just 2 weeks after posting that, my parents ended up sending me to a camp. The camp that they sent me to was using the same property and facilities of an older camp, which was closed down due to the abuse of teenagers. The place was not like anything I imagined it would be. I tried to cooperate and pretend everything is normal, but they see compliance as a form of resistance. They also see non-compliance as a form of resistance. Whatever you do, they see it as resistance. Their formula is that we were defective people and the only way to fix us is to first break us down completely and then rebuild according to their standards. Until they see you have mental breakdowns, they don't agree that you are ready to relearn everything and change, so they continue the pressure. Even when I was doing everything they wanted, they were not convinced. It took maybe 3 months for them to be convinced that I am broken down, and they did break my spirit, to be honest. I got to the point that I did not care about anything anymore, I just wanted it to end. They knew about my YouTube channel and they wanted me to log in and delete all my videos and delete the channel. They had a girl who pretended to work in the kitchen to befriend me only to see if I truly hate my old self or not. She would tell me that she watched my videos and she was insulting me left and right and was saying horrible things about me and my brother, also YouTuber, and I was supposed to agree with her. If I took things personally, they knew I was acting and was not ready. They got me when I was at my lowest and they got me to lock them into the account. The next day they brought me in front of a computer and showed me that my old password was not working anymore and told me that they have deleted my account. I was thinking all the time and effort I placed there was gone. From there I did not care anymore and they were convinced they have achieved their goal. So things became easier. They would teach me to be a nice girly Christian girl who wants to raise babies and would never touch a boy until she is married to someone her parents pick. It was like they were sending me into a children's book. Then my dad came and brought me back home. When I got back, my brother actually told me that my YouTube account was not deleted. Since I was using his email for recovery, he got a notification when I logged in from the camp because it was a new place. So he figured this is not good news and jumped and changed the password. So my account is intact, the a-holes at the camp were lying. I don't know if I am the same person or not or how much I have changed, but I really hate my parents. I hate them so much that a year ago I could not even imagine such a level of hatred is possible. There are 448 days until I am 18 and I am counting every single day until this is over and then I'm leaving with my brother and we are never looking back. My big brother is the only positive thing in my life and the only person who I trust. When I was gone, he went to police, CPS, even talked to a lawyer and a private investigator to find a way to get me back, but nothing worked. My parents came after my $15,000 which I had at a joint account with my brother in order to pay for this program that they sent me to. But my brother actually ended up moving the money to an account only under his own name, so parents could not access it. He continued to post the videos that I had prepared in the pipeline when I was gone, so I continued to make more money and did not lose subscribers. That's it from me. From what I understand, my parents could not afford to keep me there anymore. That is why they pulled me out, otherwise the place wanted more time with me. You know, when I think of these teen camps, I think of these crazy TV shows where parents send their annoying teenagers to some kind of hellhole just so the teenagers learn to appreciate the things they have in their everyday life. However, this story makes me speechless. I gotta say, I really hope this did not happen in the US. If you have ever heard of a similar case, please let me know in the comments. And if you have watched until here, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and also like the video if you want to support me. Thank you so much. I think my mom is going to try to kill my grandmother and make it look like she ended her own life. For some background, I live in Washington and my mother and grandmother live together in New Jersey. My grandmother is 82, diabetic, mostly blind, has anxiety and needs help with some daily tasks, which include shopping, hygiene, etc. But otherwise is doing fairly well considering. She had surgery about a week and a half ago to have a toe amputated, which is when this whole fiasco started. My mother is mentally ill and refuses to seek treatment for it, and has a long history of abusing other people and or overlooking abuse of others for her own gain. That is to say that her killing her own mother definitely would be something in the realm of possibilities for her. She also has about 15 years experience in the medical field, EMS, so she knows a thing or two. And by the way, just to quickly chime in, how is it possible that you are mentally ill At least like the person in the story, and still work in the medical field for that long. Anyway, since my grandmother's surgery, my mother has been really playing up the fact that my grandmother is depressed. She has always been the alarmist type, so I just brushed it off, but the way she spoke about her was as though she was insisting she thought my grandmother was going to pass soon. At some point during this time, my aunt tried to call my grandmother to see how her recovery was going, but my mom answered. GM was napping, went off of my aunt, and to my understanding lied and said that my grandmother could not talk because something had happened during surgery and now she needs a speech therapist. I spoke to my grandmother on Sunday and there is no difference in her speech, so clearly the speech therapist was BS. My grandmother also expressed that she feels great, that her leg gets sore occasionally, but they put a salve on it and the soreness goes away. And otherwise she's healing and recovering well, is not on any pain medication or antibiotics, and her foot looks good. I note that she is my grandmother and does not like for me to worry, but all of this does align with my mother's updates, except that my mother keeps insisting upon the depression. Today my mom messaged me again insisting that my grandmother is depressed, she's having a hard time recovering, etc. And telling me that she spoke with a social worker who is helping her take the necessary steps to become her paid caretaker. She also stated that she's seeking POA for my grandmother's medical care and affairs, that they are putting together a living will, and making funeral arrangements for my grandmother's cremation. She says that my grandmother insists we use the cheapest funeral home we can find, I believe this is true, and that she wants us to use her life insurance to pay the cremation costs and split the remainder between my mother, myself and one of my brothers. I suspect this is a lie. The problem is, my brother and I are the only beneficiaries on my grandmother's life insurance, which is where the POA comes in. I knew my mom was going to try to weasel her way into the life insurance somehow, and now I know how she's going to do it. Several hours after this conversation, it dawned on me, I believe she's planning to save up money for a while and kill my grandmother, making it look like she ended her own life and have everything left to her. I plan on talking to my uncle and explaining my suspicions to him, as well as trying to get in touch with the social worker, but I was wondering what other steps I can take to try to prevent this from happening. Can I request that a social worker check in on my grandmother and speak to her privately on a regular basis? Can I demand an autopsy upon her death under suspicion of foul play, even if it goes against my grandmother's final wishes? Is there a way that I can get the police involved to stop the cremation from happening before I am able to get an autopsy performed? What steps could my uncle take to prevent my mother from gaining POA and putting herself on my grandmother's life insurance? Any and all advice is welcome, as I truly don't know what to do in this situation. Just a note, a caregiver other than my mom is out of the question. There's no way my mom would allow it, and my grandmother would have vouched for my mother because my mother is the only person she's comfortable with taking care of her due to her anxiety. And one of the top comments mentioned, call Adult Protective Services. Then OP responded, I don't think they can do anything because my mother has not done anything to raise suspicion at this point. Would calling at least put her on their radar for the future? Edit to add, I want to emphasize that at this point my mother is taking very good care of my grandmother. I don't think she's planning on enacting anything until after I visit in April, so I'm afraid of calling prematurely and having false flags for her to leverage in her favor the future. Another comment said, besides calling APS, call the cops and report that your mother says grandma is suicidal. I'm pretty sure that they will have to make a welfare check. If mom realizes that she's on the radar of law enforcement and social agencies, this may deter her. If your uncle is as alarmed as you are, he should talk to an attorney and find out what the options are for grandma. It sounds like she would be better off away from your mother. And now the update to the grandmother story. I wanted to thank the r/LegalAdvice community and give an update to my original post from about 4 months ago. For privacy purposes, as this is an ongoing situation, this post will be fairly short and vague. Last month, my grandmother was admitted to the ICU in respiratory failure. She pulled through, but with the help of my aunts, uncles and cousins, we determined with evidence that my mom has been both neglecting my grandmother's medical needs and drugging my grandmother without her knowledge. Although she would not outright say it to me, it turns out that my mother had been insisting to my cousins that my grandmother was suicidal and even tried to keep pushing the "she wants to F herself" narrative while my grandmother was hospitalized. We believe that she may have even attempted to OD my grandmother at the hospital, but her plan was thwarted by ever-present relatives. As an aside, we did alert the hospital of the situation and unfortunately were told they could not do anything because it is a family matter. Everything is now in the hands of my aunt, who's working with a lawyer to address the situation in the least stressful way for my grandmother. Thank you all for your advice and support on my last post, and I am so glad that my grandmother is still with us. I truly believed that this situation would only end in tragedy, but it seems fate had different plans. My grandmother is still in the care of my mother for the moment, with relatives checking in daily, and while my mother is not yet aware that my family knows of everything she has been doing, she does at least know that her siblings are seeking to change the POA and insurance benefits out of her name, and has since completely changed her tune about my grandmother's mental health. Otherwise, my grandmother is home and doing well, and is under the close eye of her children, doctors and social worker, while my family works out where to go from here. Thank you all again. And unfortunately guys, we have reached the end of the video. I hope you still enjoy r/legaladvice, please let me know in the comments, and I hope you have a fantastic day, and I see you again tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching.